This conversation covers sensitive topics regarding children's mental health and suicidal distress. We talk about these things because silence grows stigma, but conversations grow hope. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to listen in small doses. If you or your child are in immediate need of support, we are providing resources. You do not have to do this alone. For immediate support and resources, you can call or text 988. This is available 24/7. This is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can text HOME to 741-741, and that will connect you with a crisis counselor. You can also reach out to the Trevor Project for LGBTQ plus youth. Call 1-866-488-7386 or text START to 678-678. Hey everyone, we're back at the table. If you just listened to episode 1, we talked about the initial fog. Today we're talking about what happens when the fog clears and you realize you're at the start of a long marathon. This is the episode for the parents currently staring at IEP paperwork, sitting on the wait list, or just feeling like they're the only ones fighting for their child. It's the heavy lifting. Just a heads up, we're talking about children and mental health distress. This is a heavy conversation. Courtney felt this is an important story. We know parents are going through this, so take a breath before we dive in. Hi, welcome back to Special Ed, IEPs, 504s, Oh My, Conversations with DCCX. I'm your host, Meredith, and again, we have Courtney for our second episode. Hey, Courtney, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me back.
Where we left off, Courtney was talking about inpatient, outpatient, what was working, what wasn't working, being in the outpatient one in Colorado Springs from December, January, February, March, April, May. I remember getting text messages from her. We went back to school. This isn't going right. I'm going to let Courtney talk about going on when you're trying to get your kid support at school.
There's so many things that you're thinking of. You don't want your kid to miss out on school because of that truancy factor. You hear the horror stories and it's like, holy crap, do I take him when he's not ready? I remember there were 2 incidents at Children's where he wanted more time. And they were like, no, he's good. He's fine. We can get him out. Like, he's ready to be discharged. And I had to fight with doctors. I understand what this looks like. I understand what asking for more time means. But if my child is asking for more time, I'm going to deal with whatever comes to give him that more time, because he would not be asking to stay in a hospital right now unless it was absolutely mandatory.
Did you feel heard?
It is challenging to not want to scream and shout and throw a temper tantrum, because I understand the protocol. I understand what they have to do and their policy, how few beds they have and how long that wait list can be. I remember one day it was like, okay, now he's not a danger to himself, and we have an entire ER full of kids waiting to get in here. And it's hard not to feel like, okay, so you want my child to get out of here so another child can get in, not really taking everything into account on how he's feeling, what he's saying in this moment, because he meets this criteria, this checklist you've come up with. And how often are you going over this checklist? How often is that being evaluated? What goes into this, and how much of it is on a parent's end? Because when they're coming at you saying, okay, we're going to discharge, it feels like that is permanent. And you are screaming at this wall saying, no, I'm not going to do this. And I'm thankful that I did fight it, because I know for a fact, for my child to be like, hey, I need more time, there's something going on.
What scared you the most that you didn't say out loud at the time?
Is my child going to be able to come back from this? I remember sitting there, and you hear all these stories of hope when you're going through it, and they're trying to be encouraging and uplifting. And I'm watching the day-to-day struggle, and he's not responding. He's not getting better. He is not doing all the things that they tell you is going to happen. You go into it thinking, okay, what am I doing? Your brain is scrambled, and you have someone nicely trying to be like, okay, let me hold your hand, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what's going to happen. Then we discharge, and everything's great. And you're thinking, okay, this is awesome. However, in reality, I'm looking at my kid, and he's not responding the way he's supposed to. He has zero desire, which was one of my biggest fears. If he doesn't have the will to live, how is he supposed to live? How is he supposed to stop trying to self-harm? And can I be awake 24/7 to ensure that like he's not going to? I can baby proof his room all I want. However, where there's a will, there's a way. And when it comes to kids on the spectrum, they are creative and they will come up with ways that you didn't even think could be an issue. He taught children's a thing or two about safety in the room and things that they never even thought or had any issues. And I'm talking thousands of kids have gone in this room and never once tried. And there's person just showing them what's up. My biggest fear is my child doesn't have the will and they can do everything by the book. But will he ever get that will again? Will he ever want to stop self harming? Will he actually look and be happy enough to not want to hurt himself? And it's still a daily struggle. There are mornings where he wakes up and he's just, I don't want to. And I was like, I understand. But sometimes when we talk about that mask and how much it can hurt us, sometimes it's a positive, especially with him, because it's okay. We may not want to, but we still have to put the mask on. We still have to, even if we don't feel strong, pretend we're strong until hopefully it gets better. And if it doesn't, we communicate, but at least give that encouragement to not give in to these huge feelings.
Does that kind of go into what was the hardest decision you had to make during this time?
One of the hardest things was ensuring that I was being made aware of every single thing, because you are dealing with hospital. You are dealing with a large hospital with lots of patients. So rule of thumb sometimes is, hey, we're going to do this and tell you later, but ensuring things were communicated prior to being done. We're not going to put him on medicine without talking first, and not just talking, but explaining everything so that I felt comfortable. My partner felt comfortable. As a team, we're listening, like, we don't agree with that. And then being open to it was one of the things that I'm so glad that I had the strength to use my voice, because I felt so weak in those moments. And then the fact that there's this timeline and they're gone. And if they check the boxes to meet criteria, they legally release them. And it's no, I know what he's doing. He is playing you right now. He's telling you exactly what you want to hear, and then he's going to self harm. And sure enough, the first time I did it, they reluctantly were like, okay, we'll give him 24 hours. That's it. And that night he tried while there, and they were like, okay, we're going to keep him a few more days. And I'm like, see, I'm trying to tell you, they will sit here and figure out your little check sheet and what they had to do to get out so they can harm.
Yeah, and you would think they'd be trained to call it functional assessments. They want input from teachers and parents so they can get a full picture. You're not feeling like you're getting that during a mental health crisis.
The assessments drive me insane. I know that they are set for a good reason, and I have faith in the work that went into it, but I feel like some of them are so outdated, and the way that they're just framed the same questions every time, there has to be a new method to throw them off, because otherwise they're just going to say things the same way because they're like, oh, I get to go home. And then when I'm home, I can run away or hurt myself, or something worse, hurt a sibling, which is always in the back of your mind when you have other kids in the home.
In the crisis, how do we get this person so they're not going to hurt themselves? But to do that evaluation when you have a child that is on a scale of 1 to 10 at 10 and has been going like this for weeks, they're not going to answer in the way that you need them to, especially when you're making these huge decisions based on those test results.
Right. Suicide ideation is different for every child and how they say it, how they display it. And you were saying there was shadows.
Yeah, the dark figure that he still talks about. I saw this dark figure. It wouldn't let me sleep. It woke me up, and it was just right there staring at me and telling me things to do. And this dark figure has literally been in all of our nightmares now for over a year.
Was that once he was in the hospital that he started talking about this dark figure, or was this when you're noticing more movement, unable to control his body, and when you're starting to reach out for help, when you started noticing the dark figure come out? And do you think that's why they weren't taking him to meet the criteria, is because it was something he was seeing versus an action that he was doing himself?
Another hard part was everything started to explode physically in December and May prior to school letting out. He made a comment about wanting to jump off a bridge, and he knew where this bridge was and he could easily walk there. Come to find out, it was not a bridge, it was just an overpass. But still, he had these idolations then, but then they disappeared. It was one day where it was just so dramatic and extreme, and then he was totally fine. He was like, I don't know why I said that. Minecraft, and comparing it to a video game, which was a really hard part because you're trying to get help and your child is relating life to a video game. He's like, the one thing that he said time and time again, if I end it, I just get to play a different level. And it was this holding on to, I want to play a different level. And then once they had this conversation of, well, life's not a video game. And if you jump off a bridge, you don't get a new life. We need to get you to realize that these are concrete actions and decisions that you are making. There's no coming back from. And to explain that to someone that even as high functioning as they may be, it's pretty hard to get him to understand. Like, to this day, he still doesn't understand it.
Was that a turning point? You're seeing all these different care teams, and I'm assuming this is being communicated to each care team, this dark figure, this plan. Do you ever get this feeling of, we have a team that seems to understand what's going on?
For us, it's really hard because they were able to identify what this figure was in his mind. And as a parent struggling through having two households, that's where it stemmed back to. They were able to be like, this figure, how they're describing him is manifesting as someone else in his life. As a parent, you're like, okay, tell me who it is. Is it someone in his life? I can easily take that out. But in our case, it was not that easy to take out. And it's something that's ongoing with him and has lots of highs and lows, extreme highs and then extreme lows. Last fall, he was super happy. And now, thankfully, without contact, he's thriving. There's been no mention of this dark figure. There's been no idolations where, okay, maybe I do need to jump off a bridge. But sometimes in life, the thing causing the trauma, there's no easy answer on how to remove that from their life.
Once you can figure out what it is, what is happening at school? He was outpatient and still going to school. Is the school communicating with that mental health team? We touched on the truancy, but what are you doing?
So you are the bridge between the hospital and the school. There's no liaison appointed. Thankfully, we had an amazing staff member that was like, I am invested in making this the easiest transition possible. We want to keep the open line of communication if it's okay with you. And I'm like, please let the school know, let them know everything, let them know what is going to be coming, because it takes weight off my back too, because I have other children at home. I have bonus children that I'm trying to juggle all of their emotions. I have a partner that I'm trying to balance their emotions because they're trying to figure it out in real time with me and trying to be everything for everyone. There's so many different factors. So thankfully we did have that line of communication, but even then afterwards, when he walks out that door, that care team is gone. So you're now the point of contact to try to figure out what is the next move. How do I do this? It was up to me to get the pediatrician on board. It was up to me to find the right care team because the mental health aspect they had set up wasn't a good fit for him. It wasn't what he needed. I thankfully found someone. I was already in therapy myself and was able to be like to my therapist one day, crying to her like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? How do I figure this out? I have to do this. I have to do that. I'm one person. How do I wear all these hats at one time? And she's like, we have someone. So thankfully now I have an amazing care team. We have our developmental pediatrician, his therapist, his med manager, and all 4 women who I am super proud to say that he is a team of all women because they are all moms themselves, which creates this different balance and harmony because they are, yes, a medical professional, but they are still a mom. So they're able to help him and me. Like, I see you, I hear you, I feel that weight, and I cannot stress how much it helps to have the right people in your corner.
And you touched on another thing. The world doesn't stop while your child's in crisis. Everything else is going on. The bills have to get paid. The job still has to get done. And so it's hard. It's like great that you're in therapy, but finding the right people, a lot of parents shut down, don't talk, and then they try to deal with this all by themselves. They feel responsible for it. Do you have any advice you can share with parents? Because it's still ongoing for you, and it's still probably a lonely road.
I cannot stress enough. I thought, okay, I'm supposed to sit here and wait and have them give me information and who I should talk to and when I should talk to him. It just felt the entire time, this is not what he needs. This is not our needs. Yes, these are professionals. However, not every professional will work for everyone. I could love my therapist and be like, hey, you should check her out. And you have no, I'm not really a big fan of her. And that's totally fine. Listening to your voice is one of the biggest things I would recommend to a parent when you're going through this. But getting that team in order is also crucial. Don't just go with someone because you think that's what you have to do. If it's not working, if you find yourself doing these weekly therapy sessions every single week, and I have them for the next 6 months, because if I don't do that, I won't make myself a priority. I won't take that hour that I need to fill back into my cup. And I remember my preacher saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I kept hearing him, oh my God. And he's like, you're supposed to pour from your overflow. I had heard you can't pour from an empty cup, but I kept missing that you're supposed to pour from. And if you're not pouring into your cup, I can't advocate for my child. I can't advocate for my other children at home. I can't advocate for my partner because I am barely hanging on.
I know of a parent that seemed to have a lot of shame in what was going on with her child. And she was going to the doctor trying to figure it out. She was very anxiety driven, like, ADHD, that neurodiverse. And she was just like, I swear it's this. I swear it's this. And she kept going doctor to doctor. She didn't really want to take in anyone else's support to help her through it because she felt like she had to do this as a one-man mom show.
That's what our society tells us. You can wear all these hats and you have to. You had the kid. You have to figure it out. That amount of pressure put on us as a society, we've never faced that looking back in our history ever.
We used to be a village, and there's probably a lot of parents out there trying to do this and they're not doing it from their overflow. They just are trying to be the one that gets the answer. And you did touch on this. Were there people that you could talk to that helped point you in the right direction? Was there a care member you could reach back out to that care team and be like, do you have another recommendation? Are there steps for parents that are alone, have no idea how to navigate?
If you're not as type A as I am, you can always reach back out. Our team was upfront. Hey, these are the people. If there's anything, let us know. There is a process to it. Getting this one professional took forever. Versus I'm sitting in therapy, talking to my own therapist, and she's like, hey, I know this person. Let me reach out. By the time I left that office, I already had an appointment set up. The therapist, absolutely amazing. Exactly what we needed because my therapist knew me. She knew the raw, the ugly, the non-Pinterest, whatever we're displaying on social media, and was able to be like, okay, this is what they need, and worked perfectly for us.
So what I'm hearing is, even though might be an introvert and you want to try to handle this yourself, the best thing to do is talk about it. That's where you're going to learn what you can do, what's out there, who you can go see, making those connections, feeling less lonely in that journey.
I remember throughout so much of this, I kept saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And it was almost like, if I keep saying this, it'll be true. And I can do this. I'm used to doing this. Looking back, and then not even 12 hours later, his biological dad deployed. So when we talk about I'm fine, like that is what I'm used to. That is our history. You put on a happy face. You're the mom of 2 kids and your husband's overseas and you make it work and you figure it out and you don't say anything and you're posting the pictures and attending the mom groups. In 2026, I cannot stress enough to stop going with the social norm of what you should be doing versus what you're feeling, and giving that feeling time and space and not just making it so small and swallowing it time after time.
And since this is IEPs and 504s, you were the bridge, but then you had that open line of communication. What were the conversations for the support in the school? Like, was it, because he's on a 504?
He's on an IEP and a 504 now. And what was really hard, and I actually do attribute some of this to the mental health piece and the anxiety he was having in school. He didn't do in preschool. He was in an ABA school and he graduated and then is thrown into a special education classroom where he's in that 99% of the time. He is solely in the special education classroom all the time. And then an incident happened where he was catapulted from that to mainstream because it was what they thought would be best. And you're sitting there as a parent like, okay, I'm going to trust these people. Like, why would the principal sitting at this meeting say this is the best? Okay, cool. And at the time they were like, okay, IEP. They don't explain what an IEP is. They're just assuming you know. And they're not telling you you have a say in some of this, or you can give ideas, or no, I don't like that idea. It was just like, this is what you're given. Be thankful, smile, sign, and you're on your way.
Right. We talked with the district high ups, and that is not the format at all that
not
they
at
want.
all.
They want your input, and those conversations are important, and they are not one size fits all. It is supposed to be, Kelly loves to say, the I in IEP, the individualized aspect. Those conversations are important, and you need to make sure they're individualized. If your child is missing a lot of school, that 504 is a law that they have to abide by. If your child is being institutionalized and missing a lot of school while you're navigating this, reach out to the school and you talk to them about, hey, mental health is happening. I'm not able to bring them to school on these days, and work on that 504 piece for that absence. And then it's all about him being able to access their education still while you're going through all this. So that truancy piece is really scary, but you need to have this conversation with the school. You have to go and ask for at least the 504 because it's law for the kid to be able to access their education when they're not able to.
And I love that you're touching on this because back then I am very much involved in the special needs community, and I thought I knew a lot. I thought I could write a book on it, and then had no idea that a 504 could cover mental health. I thought it was something you only got if you had autism. Okay, cool, you get this. I've met so many people that also have children going through the same walk that I am that were like, wait, I can get a 504. That qualifies for that? And it's like, yes, there is a mental health piece, and that does matter. And not just a mental health piece, but also a health piece too. God forbid your child gets cancer and you're dealing with chemo and radiation. You qualify for that. There are so many different boxes that these qualify for.
From the parent I was talking about, that was her stress. She was mad because the school was hitting her up for absences, and she's like, I just don't care. And I know the last thing a parent wants to hear is, you should do this. You want to support them. Like, you should go talk to the school, get them on the 504. So can you walk me through a way someone can support a parent going through this?
I highly would like people to note that you can get an advocate for this. There are advocates in the county that can help you through the IEP 504 process, walk you through it step by step. I remember meeting with one and being, talk to me as if I'm 5 years old. Talk to me as if I have no experience in this whatsoever, because when you're in this, I can relate to that parent not wanting to take another thing on because you already have so many other things on your plate and you want me to figure this out. I just heard Susie down the road talking about her incident with her 504 meeting and how they canceled it or they didn't listen to her. Then you have Bobby talking about his wife came home crying because it was a mess. It was a train wreck. And you have this huge stigma surrounding the IEPs and 504s that I cannot stress enough. Even if you don't use advocate, meeting with one so you're aware of everything in a way that honestly doesn't feel like knives being thrown at you.
As a friend, is something like asking, can I take this on? Can I CC you on an email to get this communication going?
There are times where I remember reaching out to you specifically and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not this close. We're about to get real close because I'm just going to lay it all with no chaser at you. But in those moments, I highly recommend, if there's something in your gut being like, hey, I want to email. I'm coming from a place of, I don't have this on my plate. Let me do this for you. I would have been like, heck yes, please do this. Please help me. CC me on that, because I can then drive passenger versus being the one behind the driving seat.
There are people out there that want to help you. And so I think hearing a way that they can help, so maybe even just recommending an advocate or providing the resource to the school that they go to. There's resources out there. We are a resource. Reach out to us. We want to make sure that we can provide support so people don't feel alone, not just in hearing stories, but to know they don't have to go through it by themselves.
After it all happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I could have reached out, because Douglas County is amazing in the sense of we do have all these different areas and there is a person assigned to it. And I know our leader for our area, looking back, had I known to go that avenue, she could have been a huge help and she would have done it. Yeah, she has a lot on her plate, but she even told me, if this happens again, you better let me know. And I'm like, okay, I promise I will.
I kind of got this from you when you were going through this. You were tiptoeing around what was going on. Was it to protect yourself or to protect others in fear of judgment?
At the time, I did not feel very understood with my child's school. Like, I was, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to call anytime something's popping up, trying to build this relationship to have them part of the team. And they have so many other kids at the time. That's what it felt like. Like, I'm calling you. The doctor just had a conversation. Why don't you care? It's not that they don't care. It's just they have 20 other fires going on that need their attention. Back then, it was who is coming from a place of love and understanding and want to help, or who's judging me. There were certain days where it was like, wait, did I brush my teeth? It got to the point where I had an amazing partner who wrote me a little sticky note and wrote down a to-do list in the morning. Take your medicine, brush your teeth. And as stupid as that sounds, it was just that little reminder throughout the day. Okay, make sure you're doing this.
You were in therapy. What else did you do to take care of yourself while going through this crisis?
There were times where it was so overwhelming. Just going to eat was like an act of God. It took everything for me to remember to eat, to hydrate. Thankfully, I'd carry around my emotional support water bottle, because I wouldn't some days. Going to church every Sunday, as much as I'm not uber religious, it helped having a church that preaches about broken people and not being perfect. Don't come in here if you're perfect. That's not who we are. Our lead pastor was an addict. He tried to kill himself. He talks about things nobody talks about. He wears it like a badge of honor. Like, this was my story. So church definitely helped. Our monthly meetings where the board would get together, just sitting where I didn't have to think of so many different things medically, helped. Going to the gym, as much as I hate it, this year, January 1st, I'm like, this is my hour every day where I can just run it out, find something to physically get it out, because I cannot stress that enough. I'm not saying you have to take boxing classes or CrossFit or anything like that. Whatever it is, get your body moving so you are releasing everything that you're holding in, because you have no idea the weight that is on you.
Yeah, you're touching on something for sure. Run the crazy off. So in the middle of the chaos, what were the tiny things that told you, okay, we're making it?
The tiny things that were really starting to make me feel better was each time, as much as it was horrible to be going back, to see the care team at the hospital, it was, okay, I knew what to say, because I was used to the questions at this point. I had been through it all. And it was like, okay, this is what's been happening. This happened. I have a running log in my phone. Anytime he does something, I write it down. So I already have that running list. Okay, this is where it felt a little off, but it wasn't major enough to reach out. Please do that, because if you have multiple kids, you can't remember everything. Being able to go back, know what to expect, and walk into a room where I'm not scared of judgment, and more so, okay, this is what we have to do to figure out the solution. Let's all sit together, put our heads together and think, boom, here we go.
What about those wins? Is that a win, or are there other things you can do that felt like a win?
He will tell me. It got to a point where he would just explode. And I remember sitting there crying one day, being like, why is it always this explosion? There has to be a spark before it explodes. There's always a spark. What is that? And communicating and having these conversations where I feel like he's not listening, or it's not getting through, or I need to figure out a different way and talk less, talk more. But now it's to a point where he'll tell me, he'll be like, hey, I feel it again. I feel this weight. And not even a month ago, had the care team over at our house to assess him. Hey, What do we do? Okay, we're going to go to children's. We're going to go into this. We're going to see what's going on. Thankfully, he was released that day. They didn't hold him. But to finally have that peace and confidence in the team and the choices that I'm making is a huge win.
I think you have lots of wins. You guys are doing awesome. Thank you, Courtney, for being here. And remember that you are doing a great job. If you're in the middle of the marathon, you're allowed to be tired. You are doing enough. We're going to leave it there for today in episode 3, Hope and Resilience. We're moving away from the crisis. We aren't talking about perfect endings or fixing everything. We're talking about real life healing and the resilience we didn't know we had. We provided some resources in the beginning of this podcast, and we are going to also be listing them in our show notes. You can learn more about DCCEC on our social medias or go to our webpage, dccec.org. If you like this podcast, please like, share, and let other parents know about it. We're trying to get those conversations out there. And if you have any suggestions, definitely just let us know on those social medias or at our email at info@dccec.org.